What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I have a special guest with me to discuss the Players' Cup 3 for the Pokemon trading card game online. That special guest is Jack Millar, who won the first Players' Cup back in 2020. Today, Jack and I are going to talk about the Pokemon TCG in general, PTCGO, TPCI standard format, and most importantly, about the Players' Cup 3 and his preparation leading up to Players' Cup 1 and 2. I hope you take away a lot from this experience to help you with choosing your deck and playing through the different phases of Players Cup 3. And also check back tomorrow for another video with Zach Lesage, the champion of Players Cup 2. Shout out to PotonStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes. Use code CELIO for 5% off. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. So, Jack, how did you get into the Pokemon trading card game?
It was a while ago, but I was kind of into Pokemon when I was a lot younger. And then as I was watching YouTube videos on it, I found some of the top cut stuff. And then as I got older, it's kind of just turned into more of interest in the game itself and not just Pokemon.
Awesome. Cool. So you played in Players Cup 1 and 2, and you were the Players Cup 1 champion, and that's why you're here. We're doing this video. Bit of information from you, bit of information from Zach, the following Players Cup champion. So before we get into questions about, decks and metagame and lists and how you won exactly, what do you think about the process and the structure of Players Cup, whether it's compared to real-life Pokemon events or compared to other card game online events? What did you think about the process?
I'm going to be honest, it is a lot better than nothing, but it could be a lot better. I think the early keys are a lot better than what they did for Players Cup 1. They're still a bit odd. Like, in my opinion, the full ideal is to have an actual ranked ladder, and then the top players of the ranked ladder go to a qualifier, and the top of the qualifier would go to the finals. But
Right.
I guess that's
Yeah.
just not possible because they really don't like including a ladder.
So. Yeah, that's what I've wanted from the beginning. I mean, I've been asking for that for years, since before PTCGO was even as relevant as it is, and now since it is relevant.
Yeah, it's pretty strange in my opinion that it doesn't have a ranked ladder. Like, it's a game it's in 2021 now, and like it's basically just a simulator that doesn't work half the time.
Yeah, I tend to agree. For any of the listeners out there, or even Jack, if you know about the game, Riot Games Legends of Runeterra, the card game, they kind of have a structure similar to what you're talking about. They have a ranked ladder, then the top X amount of people get into the next tournament, and then from there they go into the next one.
Yeah. So what I was actually basing it off was Hearthstone, because I used to play Hearthstone quite a lot.
Okay.
And that's how the World Championship qualifiers used to work. It would be like the top ladder players and people who played official tournaments would go into like a regional qualifier. And the top four of the regionals would go into like this championships. And then the top four of that championships would get invited to the World Championships.
Okay.
And they would do that. So there would be 16 players at the World Championships. And I thought that was a really good system.
Yeah, I agree. Like you started out with, I think this is better than nothing. I'm not sure I thought the Players Cup 1 qualifier was even better than nothing. I honestly almost would have rather had nothing. But Players Cup 2 qualifier and what they're doing for Players Cup 3 qualifier, I would definitely say is better than nothing. And
I mean,
seems like a step, at least, because Nintendo companies are typically pretty behind when it comes to competition and online stuff.
However, to be honest, in my opinion, the Players Cup 1 qualifier, like qualifying for the regional thing, that wasn't even a qualifier. That was like a registration.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I had 400 event tickets. I had 400 event tickets, and I am a very competitively driven person, and I knew it didn't matter how I did in those events, so I just entered and conceded until I had enough tournament rep.
I mean, in Oceania, like, you needed 10 rep or something, even for Players Cup 2. So it's like, a lot of people I don't even think used all 50 keys. Yeah. A lot of people didn't even turn up, because I don't think they checked their emails.
Oh, no.
They randomly played a tournament during that month.
Oh no. Yeah, they didn't do a great job of letting people that only use
Yeah,
PTCGO know about the tournament.
they don't market their tournaments very well, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like,
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
whole
I think
slew of reasons to why potentially, or theories
I
why.
actually think Players Cup One was marketed a lot better than Players Cup Two. So I remember they did like interviews with the players beforehand, and they had like a podcast. The Players Cup Two, they didn't really bother doing any of that. So
Yeah, I think they kind of just hoped that whatever they got out of Players Cup 1 would kind of carry over to Players Cup 2.
yeah, play and like my other problem with it is the whole prize structure. To be honest, like
Yeah, go
five
into
to
that a little bit
16
more.
gets
I'll go
so
ahead.
the prize structure for the okay. So the prize structure for the Players Cup is if you don't top four the finals, you get nothing, and the top
Uh-huh.
four get an IOU note for a travel and nothing
Okay.
else. So like, that's
Yeah,
not a
oh, the
lot.
whole top 4 gets the travel award?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so the prize from first to fourth is the same.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
yeah,
I had thought that's really interesting. As someone who has covered all of the Players Cup like from beginning to end on this channel, I'm actually a little ashamed to say I missed that part. I'd been under the impression that only first place got it. That's
oh no,
interesting.
that would be awful. But
Yeah, I mean, the way you said that though, it sounds pretty terrible for ninth through 16th.
yep,
Because they've,
like
some, if you're in North America, it was actually quite challenging to get through the initial qualifiers of
I mean,
Players
I
Cup
think it
2.
was like the same for North America, Europe, and like, they all had
Yeah,
256.
pretty much everywhere but Oceania, I think.
I mean, Oceania just had one less round, so like
Yeah. Oh no, I'm
that's about
sorry.
it.
I meant like the very, very initial, like the 50 key part.
Oh, oh, that I don't know. That doesn't really seem like too much of an issue to me. Like,
Yeah, but like
I
what
heard
I
it
was
was
getting
kind
at.
of hard in North America, but like
Mhm.
if you just play a decent deck for them, you should be able to get in.
Yeah, what I was getting at more was there's so much time commitment between the 50 keys and then the top 256 and
Oh
then the
yeah,
top 16 and then to just get fifth place and get nothing.
yeah, that's
Um,
pretty bad.
it kind of
Um,
sucks.
so this might delve into a bit of a conspiracy territory, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, I would prefer scaling like cash prize structure for the
Mm-hmm.
finals.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason why they don't do that is because of a tax reason.
Oh, okay.
Because so if you didn't know this, they used to do scholarships at the World Championships
Yep.
before
Mm-hmm.
like before modern era,
Yeah.
and apparently the reason they did this was the same reason. It was because they could use it as a tax write-off,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a
and
lot of
so
sense.
they're giving out travel awards so they can like basically just save money on taxes.
Yeah, it's like a non-monetary award, I guess, or like, yeah,
Yeah,
they would have to tax it if they were giving out money.
yeah, or because they do tax it for anyone who's outside of North America as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you didn't know that, any money you get from Pokemon if you're outside of North America is taxed.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was some legal thing that they decided to make travel awards, but I don't know why they didn't like give. I don't know why they give nothing to 9th to 16th. I think
Yeah.
that's a bit of a slap in the face.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I've been planning on making a video, so spoiler alert to anyone watching this, about um, kind of the breakdown of how I view the Pokemon franchise and where the card game stands, and then the very minute piece of that franchise that is the competitive scene, and like what they actually gain to get from putting more
Yeah,
into this. And I
I
think
mean,
we just fall into like the raindrop of a huge franchise.
in my eyes, I think the competitive card game could be really good, but it
Hmm.
requires a lot of a lot of monetary commitment from Pokemon and a lot of changing of the structure. Like
Yeah.
especially for in real life tournaments, I think that if they're trying to make it a really competitive card game, there has to be a lot of changes made to the system.
Hmm.
Like I would personally. So, how far do you want me to go into talking about this?
This is super interesting. I love it. Even if viewers want to
Okay,
skip it, like this, I
all
love
right.
this.
So the way, if I were personally running Pokemon, and this is no relevance to the financial side of things or the like, or how easy it is to logistically do. This is like my like dream scenario.
An ideal state, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably keep the day one worlds invites the same. I think that's fine. Like, there's not really much you can do there. It's like a relatively easy goal for people who have a lot of commitment in life. So I think that's good. But for day two, I personally just cut local tournaments from day two entirely. I don't think they should be in it, because I think it's bad for day two players because it was burnout, and it's bad for local players because you don't want to turn up to your first league challenge and have people be super competitive. So it drives away both kinds of players, which I really don't like. And I would try to get a rank ladder in PTCGO and then get like a separate league on PTCGO where you could earn championship points and invitations to separate tournaments through ladder. And I think I would focus more on invitational tournaments as well. Because currently Pokemon is basically all open tournaments.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So like even like their flagship events, the ICs, they're basically just open tournaments.
Yep.
So I would want more smaller and harder to get into tournaments to have the player quality be higher.
Yeah, so sort of something like Magic the Gathering does.
Yeah, I would definitely look at bigger card games for inspiration to this. Like, I'm not saying PTCGO has to do this if they, or like TPCI has to do this. If they like the current system, I mean, go for it. Like, I can't really say much, but that's what I would want to happen, I guess. But I'm obviously biased, so.
No, yeah, I like those ideas. I've heard that a lot before from other players who are highly competitive about the League Challenge League Cup thing. Like, what's the point of like the top 4 players of the world playing at 20-person locals?
Has to be done about that. That should not be going on in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, in the past 2 years, I didn't have the resources and time to even consider like a top 16 chase. I was just going for the Vanilla Worlds invite the past few years.
Yeah,
but
which is like, and I do like how the Vanilla Worlds invite exists, because it's like, it is relatively easy for like an incredibly competitive player, but a vanilla invite can exist for someone who's like perhaps not as invested into the game, and they also have a full-time job, so they can't travel as much.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, but even if I had the time and resource, I don't know that I would have tried for a top 16.
In North America, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to get stipends.
Yeah.
And if you aren't getting stipends, you're operating at such a huge loss in Pokemon, so it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
About Pokemon. They don't really like giving out a lot of prize money, which is fine, I guess. I want the game to stay small, but it depends on how much they want to invest. If they want players to play more often and play more tournaments every weekend, they have to give out higher pricing, because they have to make it more viable instead of like right now where you can basically have it as just a hobby that might pay for itself.
Yeah. I say this a lot, and I've been saying it more so often recently, whereas I feel like on my channel I can just be pretty honest and people accept me for that, whereas before I was kind of like inching into like speaking my mind, and now I'm just all out there. But like the Pokemon franchise, I think they could pretty much sell anything and make anything work with the amount of pull that Pokemon as a name has and the amount of power that the franchise has.
It's pretty crazy. That Pokemon is just huge, and like
I'm pretty sure it's the biggest franchise in the world, or the largest grossing.
But like the fact that like the online Pokemon card game is so small is actually really disappointing in my opinion. I think it's a big waste of resources. Yeah,
like when I'm watching a Twitch streamer, or even if I ever see my own ads pop up, if I have my stream pulled up, or YouTube, anything, you know, there's Hearthstone ads, Magic ads, Legends of Runeterra ads, like these big card games that are super successful, still trying to get more players.
Like, imagine this hypothetical. Imagine if while the Logan Paul craze was happening mid last year and he was buying all these cards, imagine if Pokemon contacted him and got him to like stream TCGO on Twitch or something. Yeah. Like, imagine how much of a boom that would have been. That's such a missed opportunity.
But the thing is, I don't even know if I would want them to do that with the current state of PTCGO.
Yeah.
Because
So it's,
these people, like, let's say the average person watches Logan Paul, you know, maybe they
yeah.
bought Pokemon cards when they were 5, and maybe they've tried Hearthstone, they've played Overwatch, so they've played some kind of games, and they know what a 2020 game looks like.
Yeah. And they
And then
see the
they
Flash
see
game and they're like,
PTCGO, like it could
yeah.
still be a browser game.
So obviously they have to change PTCGO a lot, but it's like they could, like, I'm pretty sure they have the resources to do it. And like,
Yeah.
if they put as much effort into PTCGO as like Magic Arena or Legends of Runeterra, it could be incredibly successful. Like,
Yeah.
they have the Pokemon IP behind it. That's literally a
Exactly.
recipe for success.
The Pokemon
And
IP can
they're
do
just like,
anything.
yeah, and they're just like, nah. To be honest, I don't even think it's like the fault of the people who run PTCGO. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much I can blame them because it's
I can't blame
from
TPCI. I can say that because I feel like
like,
TPCI, at least the employees at the base of it, have very
yeah,
competent people.
yeah. Like, it seems like they're people who care about what they're doing and they're trying to make a good product. But like, I've heard a lot of stuff about budget issues because
Hmm.
like they do have to answer to the main Pokemon company.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I was
yeah,
actually just having a conversation about that this morning because um, Pokemon Japan, they don't have their own online game. So
yeah, exactly.
if Pokemon Japan players, which have a bigger base than we do outside of Japan, if they want to play, they either
Yeah,
have to play on webcam or they have to play our format on PTCGO. And there's
exactly.
actually a PTCGO, for the first time ever I've seen on the official Pokemon Japan website, in their events column, because they've just
Yeah,
canceled all real life events again. They have like a league leader or a store or something holding a small like league at home type thing through PTCGO.
yeah.
And I've never
Um,
seen that before, so I mean, I was thinking maybe that's at least like a small step or something. But yeah,
so
I imagine it comes from a lot of what TPC allows TPCI to do. That's what I've always chalked it up
yeah.
to.
Um, I'm gonna talk about something else here, and that's PTCGO's monetization.
Hmm.
Like, the fact that you cannot buy a pack in the PTCGO client, in my opinion, is pretty, like, what the hell?
Yeah, it really, that
Yeah.
bothers me. I must say, once a week, like if I could buy legacy packs on PTCGO, my bank account would be hurting.
I mean, like, the argument is, yeah, you can go to like Potown store and like
Right.
top the Potown store, they are pretty good. But the problem is, like,
Use code Celia for 5% off. Continue.
exactly, you have to be in the know to go on Potown store. Like, you already have to be invested in the game.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Nobody coming into, like, there will be people that come into my stream and I'll know they're new because they just follow and they start chatting and they'll ask
yeah,
about how to get cards and stuff, and they're like, their mind like is blown when I tell them, you
yeah.
know, just go to Potown store, buy some codes.
You have to
They're
go
like,
to
wait, they're like, is
another
this legal? Am
website.
I gonna get my account banned? I'm like, no, this is how you have to get codes.
Yeah, and there was something else I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, and the fact that a site like Potown Store can exist and be profitable should send a message to TPCI like, why not make it available to buy packs? Like, put an
Hmm.
age limit on it. But
Yeah.
the fact that people are like willing to, people who are already invested in the game are willing to go to a third-party website to buy codes should tell them that there's a market of people who are willing to spend money on the game. It's the same as the
Yeah.
fan organized online tournaments. Like, say what you will about their results validity or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
the fact that they're getting 200 people a week basically to play for nothing for tournaments that have no official advertising is huge.
They're
Like,
getting 200, 300 person tournaments on
yeah,
weeknights.
yeah.
Like
And
while
this is like,
school is in session, while everything.
and this isn't like a regionals which is advertised on the official website. This is like a tournament that you have to basically be on Pokemon Twitter or like
Yes.
know have friends in the game to be able to play in.
Yeah,
Like
that's
the
another
fact that
thing. Like
yeah,
that people have to know to go to Potown. Like I was just talking about it yesterday. My mind's still blown every time somebody in my YouTube comments or on Twitter or something doesn't know about Play Limitless, because Play Limitless is like one of the most revolutionary things that have happened to Pokemon, and it's
however,
not even by Pokemon.
the thing about Play Limitless is that Like, you have to know about it to be on it. So you have to have friends who know about it, or you have to know about it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, the fact that they're getting this many players should just send a message to TPCI, like, there are people willing to play the game competitively for very little prizes. So, and there are people who are willing to play a lot. One Players Cup a quarter is not enough.
Yeah, like there are people.
So it shows them, the market is obviously there.
Yeah, there are people playing in these online tournaments like 5+ times a week, and in my opinion, standard is god awful, and I don't know how they're doing it. Like I've been
blows my mind.
Even though the game is arguably at the worst I think it's ever been, or at least in recent times, people are still playing the crap out of it on PTCGO. Like they're playing on I'm so glad you brought some of this stuff up, because they're playing on a bad client, they're playing on a third-party site, which is beautifully made but still a third-party site. They're playing for either small prizes, little prizes, or they have to pay to enter, and they're playing a really uninteractive standard format that's super luck based and frustrating to play. And there's still so many people playing.
People just want to play Pokemon, and the fact that TPCI isn't noticing that is like a lot of wasted potential, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's people that notice, but the people that can make a change don't care.
Yeah, there's, like, in my opinion, that just shows that there's a huge market willing to play the game, even now when it's less than optimal.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some good points.
Like,
yeah,
so
I mean, I don't know if, had you seen the TPCI survey that got sent out?
Yeah, I didn't get sent it, but I still answered it.
Yeah, same. Well, I honestly, side note about another problem with Pokemon.com, I've been locked out of the email and they won't let me change it, so I don't know if they ever send me anything. So when I qualify for Players Cup, I had to have one of the judges send me the registration link, but
nice.
I answered it as well. And this was the first time TPCI had ever even like acknowledged opinions from us, so it's a baby step, but I was happy.
It's kind of sad. Like, the thing about the standard format is they aren't really allowed.
Oh, what's up? You cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. They aren't allowed to do anything about the state of the standard format.
That's what so yes, up until like maybe 3 months ago, I would have said 100% TPCI can't do anything and they have no say. But now they're hiring more people for the design team at TPCI. Like, there's more job openings to go work at Washington and that. And also the kind of questions they asked made it seem like also people have said, like, Mia, one of the employees from game design on TPCI on Twitter, had said like things about the rule box phrasing and things just implying that TPCI employees might have a little bit of a say and a swing in things that creatures are doing. Where up until now, I thought that creatures just made everything and TPCI didn't see it until we got it. They might have a little bit of a say, but still, as I said about other things, TPC still pulls the strings.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it is. And I think one of the bigger issues, and like kind of why there's such the standard format's always been kind of like less than optimal recently, is it's due to the way Japan plays their game. Like, Japan has best of 30 minutes, I think, or it's like 20 minutes, and they can't have any ties, so they want really fast games.
Correct.
Yeah, while it doesn't really work for our standard format. So the thing is, and they don't design cards for our standard format either.
Yeah,
like,
that's
Japan, I think, is still playing the Ultra Prismon. So.
Yeah, they are. They rotate sometime this month or next month, but that might even get pushed back since they don't have tournaments. But then after they rotate, they won't have Coco Prism, and we will, because our sets were cut in half. So we have 4 Prism we have 2 or 4 Prism cards, either one. Yeah, 4 Prism cards, including Black Market, Wonderlap, Shame, and Coco, and they won't have them after their rotation. So that's all wonky as well.
Yeah.
But I'm happy we got to go off on that side note about some of this stuff, because that's interesting. But why don't we talk about some of your Players Cup success and how you got there? So
yeah, sure.
So you played in Players Cup 1 and 2, and like we said, Players Cup 1 to get through the very first phase of it wasn't really a qualifying phase, and for where you live, the initial phase of Players Cup 2 wasn't really hard either. What about the top 128, the regional phase, or the top 16? What parts of that was the most challenging, and why do you think that?
I think I had a very different experience than most people. So
Okay.
I'll just go through what happened to me. So for Players Cup 1, in the regional phase, I played Pikachu and Zekrom. Like, I think 10% of the field was Pikachu and Zekrom or something.
Yeah, I
And this
heard
was in,
people talk about that. Like a lot of
yeah.
top players brought like a very similar list or something of
And
Pika.
so, like, the reason why is because basically everyone in Australia knows everyone else.
Okay.
And everyone knew that Matt was practicing a lot for it. And so they all asked him for a list.
Okay.
And then, so everyone just used the same list. I think Matt might have sent it to a group chat or something. I don't
That's
even
really
know.
cool.
But everyone just had the same list. And I actually really enjoyed that deck. It was Pikarom, but it didn't have any drill supporters. It was like, I think it was just 4 Volkner, some Jirachi, and an attack call engine.
Oh wow,
So,
okay. I'm forgetting that Volkner was in Pikarom when this happened. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, and I think the big decks at the time were Dragapult, Baby Brown, other Pika decks, Burton, and Conversation. Is that
Yeah,
right?
combo Zacian, that's right. And
Yeah.
ADP was like pretty on the low.
I remember Pikarom was pretty good against everything. Like, you could struggled a little bit against Spiritomb and Blacephalon, but both of those decks weren't that consistent. So
Yeah.
it felt good to go into a tournament where you were favored against all the consistent decks, and the decks that beat you were high roll. So the matchups just ended up being not that bad. Do you want me to explain how the tournament itself went?
Just what more so like what do you think was hard about the top 16 or the top 128, or what did you kind of learn from that experience to maybe give some advice to other people going through it?
So the top 16 was just like a regionals. That's how I thought about it.
Okay.
So I just wanted to play a consistent deck that was solid and could win against anything. And so right now, if I were going to play in Players Cup 3, I don't think I would look at a single deck other than ADP or Pikarom. Like, any other deck is just way too inconsistent, in my opinion.
I like that. I like that a lot. Especially, I think it gives two really good choices. Honestly, that's the two I'm suggesting to like coaching clients and patrons and things like that right now, and just people that ask on social media. But I like those two choices because I think Pika is a deck where you have some controlled skill expression, whereas some other decks like ADPZ, I think ADPZ, if you're going to have less time to prepare, is a little bit better. And Pikarom, if you have some time to master, might be the better one there.
In my opinion, there's still quite a lot of RNG in Pikarom, but the RNG isn't in how you draw; it's how your opponent draws and how the hammerheads go.
Yeah,
So
the reset stamp para.
The sad part is both decks do have quite a lot of RNG. Like
Yeah.
ADP, if you draw well, you're just going to demolish anything. But the deck can have some really bad hands sometimes. And Pika, if your opponent draws well, they're just going to smash you because your deck is really underpowered. So it's like they're both pretty. Like, they're both relatively. I guess Pika is relatively underpowered. ADP is like so. But the main part is they're both consistent. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pikarom's like consistently just good enough at its damage output.
And the reason is because, like, we're in a format right now with not a lot of search options, and they're all basic decks. They have access to Quick Ball as well as other good search options. Like, Pika has Radar and Cherish. ADP can just play 4 Cherish Ball in addition to 4 Quick Ball.
Yeah.
And so the decks just set up more often. Like, if you play something like Eternal Senti, you have to hit the basic turn 1, then you have to calm into the VMAX, and like, having to play communication in this format is just such a disaster. because it's so
Yeah.
fast. Common's so inconsistent. So I would just play an all basic deck.
Yeah, all basics really have so many advantages when it, like you said, setting up, you only have to get one Pokemon.
Yeah.
And then also they take up less deck space as well, and then you don't have to play things like Pokemon Communication.
And they have real ball search. So
Real ball search. Yeah, exactly. If only Ultra Ball. If only.
we've been trained.
So you picked Luke Metal. That was what you played in the top 16 to your Players' Cup won first place. So
Yeah.
what did you have any concerns about Luke Metal, or did you feel pretty confident before seeing everybody else's deck?
Oh, I definitely had a lot of concerns about it. I'm just going to explain the metagame as it was going in. So
Yeah.
crazily enough, this is actually basically the same format we have now. But
Yep.
at the time, people had no idea like just how much you could lean into the two support Pokemon cares. So a lot of the ADP lists were really unrefined compared to now. They all were playing like Turbo Patch. They didn't have Pokemon Catcher. They all were playing like 1 to 2 Cherish Ball. They played 2 to Dene. So they were really, really unrefined with their game plan. So I think Matt and I both kind of underestimated like how good ADP was, which allows Luca Metal to be strong. So going in, as we played it first, we started testing like I think a month or two before the tournament. Like we would load up all the card scans on Untap and then just play against each other on a and we would call. And I remember the first deck we tested was Etan, and that deck just felt really broken. Just Eternatus with like Boon and Scoop Up Net was the deck we were initially thinking of playing, just because the cards seemed so overpowered. I think we tried Senti, but that just kept losing to Etan, so we banned it. We tried ADP, but our really unrefined list kept losing to Etan, so we abandoned that as well. And pretty much any other deck was either just like Decidueye could beat Etan, but you just were really inconsistent setting up Andy Lock Senti deck subpar. And so we just thought we were going to play Eton, but then some concerns started arising. We were thinking like, okay, the mirror is terrible. There's no real way to consistently win the mirror. So how are we going to do this? And at the time, Crushing Hammer was not on anyone's mind. So we didn't really consider Crushing Hammer. And then one day, Matt just said, hey, Senti Scorch decks can't beat Bronzong. And then he realized that if you have Zama with Goggles and Full Metal Wall, Etan can't really touch that either. Like, no one was playing Sable IV. No one was playing...
and even like, Sable IV doesn't do it.
Yeah. And like Poison Etan basically didn't exist. I don't even think we knew what those cards did.
Poison Etan, if anybody said it, it sounded like a theme deck.
Even then, Poison Etan, I don't think is that good still. But like, so the list we tested against were like really bare bones versions of the decks. There were no like text or anything. It was just try to execute your strategy. And Luca Metal just beat the decks that tried to do that. So the Bronzong allowed us to beat Senti Scorch because the deck without Bronzong, the deck has no real way. Even weak guards, I think, don't help because that outvalued by Keytrangia.
You'd just be fighting a losing battle with the weakness cards, how I felt about it.
Yeah, and you still have to draw the weak guard. However, the Bronzong gave us a really consistent win condition in that matchup. The Bronzong also helped the anti-meta deck we were kind of expecting, which was Decidueye. That deck literally cannot deal with Bronzong.
Grass resistance, metal goggles, right?
I don't even think it was resistance. It was just full metal wall, metal goggles.
Oh, no resistance even. Yeah.
And like, the only other deck we really expected was Etan, but Zama with goggles is just untouchable in that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely.
And against ADP, the list we were playing against were incredibly slow. So if we were able to full metal wall after they used altered creation, they couldn't really do anything. Like
I feel like ADPZ probably wasn't playing Tool Scrapper yet.
I mean, there was no reason for them to play Tool Scrapper.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I don't even think they should play Tool Scrapper now, because the way the deck beats Luca Metal is just setting up quickly, but none of the lists at the time was setting up quickly. They were all incredibly slow. I don't even think Energy Switch was considered standard.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, people were basically playing ADP lists from the previous format and just like removing cards that rotated and then adding
Okay.
some turbo patches.
Okay, yeah. And turbo
Yeah,
patches aren't that good.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
They look,
basically, you were going in with an advantage on everything.
yeah. Like ADP was just a lot worse than it was back then,
Hmm.
simply because people just didn't know how much you could lean into KOing to support Pokemon.
Hmm.
So the deck was a lot easier to beat because our deck as well was pretty like fine, surprisingly. Like we managed to get the list to a really consistent point because of the communications. You could easily get the Zacian on turn one,
Hmm.
and we also played tag calls, which I think really helped the deck because the tag call is also an out to trigger your communication, which I thought was
Hmm.
really helpful. You could draw cards with it from Cynthia Caitlin, and you could grab Malilana. So, like, we didn't even play tag call initially. And the other thing is our deck could take time, like especially against something like Senti or Eton, where you just needed to set up your win condition.
Yeah.
So we had the ability to use Intrepid Sword a lot.
Yeah, that's really cool too.
Yeah. So that
So
yeah.
so kind of what I'm gathering, at least correct me if I'm wrong. So for the top 128 portion, you played like a really consistent, like your smooth, safe, consistent deck that was proven to work, Pikarom.
Yeah.
And then for the top 16, you kind of found something that you felt like you tested what you thought everybody else was testing, and then you found something to beat all of those things.
Yeah. Pretty much. We realized that like with the top 16 tournament, this is not like an internationals because at something like an IC, because it's an open tournament, you can expect to play against people with less standard lists, I guess,
Yes,
who are like newer to the game.
absolutely.
While at the top 16 of a Players Cup, you generally expect all your opponents to have practiced a lot, and they aren't just going to be playing random cards for the sake of it. They're going to be trying to win travel.
Yeah.
So like you have to qualify to get to that stage. So it's like
Right, so you're not going to run up to a Senti Scorch that has like a 1/1 Snorlax VMAX that's going to completely kill your
yeah,
Bronzong
exactly.
or
And like
something like that.
there was no real reason for Senti to play Cramorant or Double at the time because like
Hmm.
no one knew about Bronzong.
And they
So
wanted to be refined, like you said. They want to just set up the
yeah,
Senti and go.
exactly. So we were able to use that to our advantage quite a lot. Just like and then when we actually went into the tournament, we weren't that confident because we were half expecting like to get rolled by ADP still because the matchup was not perfect. And
Yeah, you could always get robbed by ADP.
yeah, however, the deck was again at the time the deck wasn't very good. Like we were half expecting people to run big charms as well, which a lot actually did.
Hmm.
That was pretty surprising to me because at the time big charm was not very good. But however, looking at the tournament afterwards, I think Victor Freitas actually might have had a better idea than us. He played kind of another slow ADP deck, but he also had the double Xana, double Goggles in there.
Okay.
So that was how he beat E-Turn. He basically just did the same thing we did and set up Xana with Goggles and can't do anything.
Really interesting. So multiple
Yeah,
people going in with the Zamazenta idea to wall out E-Turn, and that
yeah,
kind of
like
comes from identifying E-Turn as the strongest new card as well.
exactly. Like 3 out of the top 4 decks played two Zamazenta.
It's really crazy because like you guys didn't have any tournament before that, right? It
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
you get the new cards, you test, maybe like you and your testing partner, then maybe some other couples
Yeah,
between the group were testing, but just figuring out this is the best, but what if everybody else thinks it's the best too? And then how are we
exactly.
going to beat that thing? And I really love, that's what I live for. I love like those unrefined metas where you have to be the group of people that found the best deck and then found something that beat the best deck kind of thing. Like I think that's super interesting. So
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, to be honest, I think the thing that helped the most was just having someone else who was also in the finals. Because
Yeah.
Matt was also Matt was pretty willing to invest time into trying to do well because he wanted the travel award too.
Hmm.
So I don't think a lot of other players in the finals have that the advantage of having someone else who really wants to do well in that format to test
Yeah, that
against.
really helps.
Yeah,
And then there was
definitely.
Tord, of course, who, he has a few
Oh
brains
yeah,
just himself. So
yeah. Tord has a couple brain cells, so he can do well.
yeah, speaking of Tord, my deck, my pet deck going
Yeah.
into that format was Inteleon Frostmoth,
Huh.
so I was really surprised seeing Tord go into that as well. Like, if I
Yeah.
the whole time going through the qualifiers, on my mind was, if I make it in, I'm playing Inteleon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was cool, and I was a little bummed to see my boy Inteleon get beat out by the Luke Metal, but Luke Metal was a really, really great meta call, I think, at the end of the day, and it
Yeah.
shows that by getting first and second.
I don't know if we've ever had a deck like that before. Like Luca Metal did so well, and then at least in my opinion, the deck just is not good after that. Like,
Yeah, it pops up.
yeah,
It has spurts of time where it's pretty good because people forget about it or don't tech for it, or there's a
like
really heavy Eternatus meta.
yeah. I guess going into talking about the format now, in my opinion, Luca is a terrible idea to play at the moment because
Yeah,
especially for a double elim tournament, you play into a Senti and you just cannot win. Like
yeah. And
it's just
Centiskorch is
terrible.
reasonably popular, and
Yeah.
Blacephalon, this whole Tempo Reshizard thing is gaining
Oh yeah.
traction again.
And
And
your ADP matchup now is very, very sketchy. The deck has become a lot more refined since then. So
yeah,
it's a lot faster, a lot more able to do what it wants. And I would be very scared of ADP.
yeah,
And
Luke Metal seems
yeah,
really great for oh, I always beat Eternatus, and Eternatus is very strong, which that was
yeah,
exactly what got you guys to where you were in the top 16 of Players Cup 1, but now it's not
exactly.
that simple.
Yeah. And the format is it's in a very weird spot right now.
Yeah, it's also weird, like we were talking about earlier, how many people are playing in these online tournaments. The metagame is developing at rates where it never has before, or where it very rarely had before, because I'll see
Um,
cycles happen every 3 weeks. Like, people play this deck and then it falls off for 2 weeks, and then Centiskorch is back, but next week everybody's saying it's a bad deck.
I don't really pay much attention to it, to be honest.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, I don't play in standard very much. I think I've
yeah.
played 4 retro format tournaments in the past week.
The thing with the online tournaments is they're so frequent and the prize pool is so low that people are more inclined to like that's at least what it seems like in my opinion with a lot of the weirder decks doing well.
Yes, yes, I would tend to agree as well.
So
The argument is, if we had a 1,500 person regional tomorrow with, all this money on the line, would every top player just bring Pika or ADPZ or Eternatus? Let's just even bring it out to Eternatus. Let's just say those 3 decks. Would every top player
yeah,
be
exactly.
bringing those? And would the meta
Like,
look so much less diverse than it is?
I don't think it would be diverse at all. And
Yeah,
personally, I think ADP and Boss are huge gatekeepers in the format right now.
yeah, absolutely.
Boss especially. So, and a lot of these weirder decks doing well, I think are just people wanting to have fun.
Yeah, and people,
Yeah.
it's definitely cool to try to do better in an online tournament. And what do you really have to lose? You're playing because you if you're, in my opinion, if you're playing PTCGO, you're entering a weeknight tournament that's going to take 6+ hours if you do well. You're playing it because you enjoy the game, and so why not try to do well with something unique and have fun when there's not a lot on the line?
Yeah, exactly. So
So I
yeah,
don't
which is
think we'll
why
see those kind of things in the Players Cup as much.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to have fun with the game, but because
Absolutely,
it's a
yeah,
game, you're meant to have fun. But
100%.
I just wouldn't trust those results if I'm preparing for a big tournament. I would rather trust my own test. At least.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So
I think that's a good place to start wrapping up, though, and I like what you said there.
yeah,
Don't trust results, especially of these online tournaments, as much as you
yeah.
trust yourself. Um,
Or
for those
the
people out
other,
there that have time to test.
yeah. Can I give another piece of advice as well?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Don't get too discouraged if you lose, especially in this format. It's very
Hmm.
difficult to control what happens. Like
Yeah, absolutely, and
like in this format, you are going to lose games without any input. So
yeah, for sure. And I'm happy you said that because that's something I echo 100%. Like,
I mean, like,
even if you take crushing hammers
yeah,
out of the game, like, and they're a huge part of the variance and the volatility in a
yeah,
game where a lot of our game has been warped so much because one knockout is half of the game, and you don't have much
exactly.
time to do anything about it.
And like I'm gonna give this example. So in
Hmm.
Players Cup 2, I literally went 0-2.
Yeah, in the top
Like,
like 128 part,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I played ADP and just like the deck didn't work, so I went
Right.
0-2. And it's like that can happen.
Yeah, yeah, you can be the Players Cup 1 champion and be Players Cup 2 0-2 in the top cut or in the
Yep.
top phase, whatever they call it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's super great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jack, because although it's not super great that you went 0-2, it
Yeah.
it shows people that might have qualified for Players Cup 2 and
That's
got
like,
really disheartened because they
yeah.
didn't do well.
And it's the other thing is that like it's variance both sides as well. Like you can't expect to win every tournament you enter because that's just not realistic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In other formats you could expect to like get decent placings, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not in this one.
Like I feel like I've been playing a lot of 2017, and I feel like if you have a good deck and you understand your deck and you play all of your games better than your opponent did, or at least equally well, you can expect something equal to like a day 2 finish if you're playing better than your opponent and you have a good deck.
Yeah.
But in the current standard format, it's very hard, and I do one-on-one coaching a lot, and I
Yeah.
try to help my clients with skills where, like, if the format gets better, they will be able to control more of their games. But it's also a lot of mental, like, don't get tilted because you lost game 1, because you could be Tord Reklev or Jack Millar and go 0-2 and be a really good player with a really good deck and not have that control. And sometimes you just have to remember, like you said, it's a game and we're supposed to be here having fun.
Yeah. Like sometimes, you know, sometimes your opponent might just be destined from above to win that game.
Sometimes they're gonna get all the crushing hammers.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you like lose a game to flipping 4 tails on catcher or something, you just have to think, okay, like how do I win the next game?
Yeah, you can't think, oh, those tails, if
Yeah,
they were this or that, that's never going to do anybody good, and it's out of your
yeah,
control, like you said.
exactly.
So Jack, thank you so much for being on the channel. I really appreciate it. This was a great video. We talked about a lot of stuff. So if you're here at the end of the video and you skip through to get to the Players Cup 1, 2, 3 content, I highly suggest going back to the beginning, listening to all of it. We talked about some really interesting stuff about the game, the online environment, tournaments, TPCI, etc. Jack, do you have any shout outs or any closing thoughts before we head out of here?
Not really.
Cool. Short and sweet. I love it. Well, Jack, thank you again for being on. Everybody, shout out to Jack Millar, the Players Cup 1 champion. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out PotownStore.com, the best place to get your PTCGO codes. Use code CELIO for 5% off. Subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.